Imagine remembering something from your childhood, that TV show you vaguely remember in the back of your mind. Maybe something you saw on Instagram reminded you of this vague memory as you're scrolling and scrolling. You try to search for this vague memory on the internet, online. Maybe you ask some friends in real life if they know about this thing that you're talking about. Maybe you try to use the Wayback Machine. But no results, nothing. But maybe, just maybe, by some small chance, your nostalgic prayers get answered by a community online known as r/lost media. And believe it or not, this is how many lost media investigations actually begin, and lost footage, lost media gets found. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. 3 lost media pieces lost to time and neglect. I'm hoping to spotlight some interesting lost media pieces, some interesting stories I found while scrolling around this community. So big shout out to r/lost media. You guys are a really tight-knit community. Hi, my name is Raf Polo Laurent, and if you're new to the channel, I like to talk about horror, and this is the first time I will be touching on lost media. No horror channel can be complete without broaching this subject at least once. And I think it's time I dive into the nostalgia, the interest, the creepiness, and overall curiosity of this kind of topic on the internet. So pop out your energy drinks. I have a Jolly Rancher watermelon flavor this time. But the reason why I need that energy drink is because I'm filming at 2 a.m. This is really the only time I get to actually film stuff because of my job. So no more stalling, I'm really excited to dive into this. I do want to get some sleep too. So without further ado, let's begin. Lost media, especially on the internet, is such an interesting topic, but we should really talk about what is considered lost media per se, according to the community online on r/lost media. Any posts on there, any inquiries should follow this basic structure. Do not post to ask about something you remember seeing but no longer remember the name of. Those posts will be taken down ASAP. No exceptions. If that is the purpose of your visit, please instead visit communities such as r/tip of my tongue, r/help me find, r/tip of my joystick. That last one's crazy. And other related subreddits. Something is not lost if you don't remember it. That is just a memory. We don't count those. But basically any visual, audio, or textual content that is believed to no longer exist in any format, or for which no copies are publicly accessible. And this can span over different mediums, like I said, videos, songs, art, books. However, even in the community itself, this debate about what is considered lost media is kind of a topic within the community. For example, this user raises the inquiry of, is it really lost media if we know where it is? To give an example here, famous cases such as the Columbine shooting where they'd video their manifesto, essentially, or what they were going to do beforehand. And this footage is out there, it's just obviously locked away in police evidence. Gone for eternity, essentially. However, I would still consider this to be lost media because even though we do indeed know where said media is, it's not viewable to the public. Whatever the reason is, if it isn't available to the general public, whether that be because it's locked away in police evidence or an artist's personal choice to not release it and we know they have it. However, the standard that I'm going to be going by is these pieces of media were not accessible to the general public. But part of what I also think made lost media so popular as well, especially on the internet, I think has to do a great deal with creepypastas. Back in the day, during the young times, I vividly remember being terrified of entries like Suicide Mouse, Dead Bart, and Squidward Suicide. I was so young though back in the day and malleable. A part of me was like, is this real? Is there a freaking Squidward Suicide tape out there somewhere locked up in Nickelodeon Studio? And again, obviously as I'm older now, looking back at my younger self, I don't know how I could have believed that crap. I know it especially sounds crazy right now in 2026, but the internet was younger back then. You could pass anything off as real back in the day. But I bring this up to preface, I will not be including any of these clearly fake lost media entries. So starting off with an easy entry I always wanted to talk about, but it never quite fit in my other videos. is the infamous backrooms photo. Now, I made several videos about the backrooms, most recently in the movie, be sure to check that out. But I've always been intrigued by this very photo right here, the catalyst for the backrooms online as we know it, or at least Kane Pixel's version, who had great influence over the backrooms lore. I'm sure many of you have also wondered where this photo originated from. I always thought this was like a CGI photo that was posted on 4chan. Because I mean, if you just look at the Kane Pixel's depiction of the backrooms, it's so similar, the walls to the fluorescent lights. I genuinely thought it was just a computer generated photo. However, conversations about where this photo actually came from dominated lost media discussions for many years. And only until recently was it actually discovered where this photo came from. As I said before, to even begin a conversation on r/lost media, there had to have been some breadcrumbs to work with as to how we know this room existed. According to this thread, this Reddit user actually found the original webpage from 2003. And it actually used the infamous backrooms photo that was posted on 4chan on their website. But according to this thread, backstory, somehow a Twitter user had replied to a tweet in 2019 with a link to the website, and it had gone unnoticed. As a Hail Mary, I decided to search the file name, and sure enough, after combing through some tweets, I managed to find it. This meant that for 5 years, the original link had been on Twitter, and I think that's pretty hilarious. Shout out to Semilot, Serrera, Zaft, and the original Twitter user for a combined effort to make this happen. This website apparently being a website for a furniture store, it was closed down in 1994 for renovations, and that's great. That's just great. That's what I kind of like about lost media, or r/lost media, the community, figuring out the origins of something as integral to the internet, such as the backrooms photo. But the thirst of discovery doesn't end there, because as other users suggested in the thread, could the original owner have more media, more photos, more videos of this section of this building? Apparently, this was the second floor of the building. I just find it crazy that there were absolutely no windows. Like, that's got to be breaking some building codes of some sort, at least in today's time. But no windows, like that's just such a backrooms aesthetic, you know? But apparently, due to another user in this thread, maybe my theory of breaking building codes or something might be right, because we can now see in the updated renovated version of this building, we now see windows. And this does seem to be the second floor of the building as well, assuming this is 100% legitimate. But yeah, I would love to get more videos and photos during the renovation process of this building, just to add to the lore of this singular, impactful photo. Side note, I find it hilarious some of the conversations in this thread talking about constant YouTube tropes when people are making like lost media videos. Like this comment over here titled, "The backrooms image has been found, length 10 minutes and 43 seconds. The first 7 minutes explain what a liminal space is." At the end of YouTuber thanking all his Patreon subs. Or a super silent tone and sinister voice. But yeah, I hope I'm not giving any of those corny tropes. I just want to satiate my like autistic interest in this community online, just finding the origins of a very impactful photo on the internet. Leave a comment down below if you know any other like funny tropes like that. That was genuinely a very funny thread just now. And let me also know, did you already know about the backrooms photo lore? Don't be disappointed if you already knew about all that, because I believe the next entry on this list will be a bit more obscure. So back in the day, networks like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon were the pioneers in showcasing original animation such as shorts during these like 15-minute blocks. Now, I had many memories growing up as a kid, remembering some of these shorts from some of the most famous cartoons that became full-fledged shows. Featured in some of these blocks would be shows like Steven Universe, Uncle Grandpa, and many other examples like that. But in this segment, I want to talk about the forgotten shorts from these kinds of shows. The really creepy shorts that stuck with you if you were unfortunate enough to view one of these shorts. In this entry, I'm going to be referring to an obscure short known as Betty. So yeah, lots of thoughts there, but this short was created by Rie Ito, born in 1966 in Japan. That's gotta be a typo, right? Like, she looks younger than me in this photo. And I don't think that's a photo from like 1980. Am I tripping here? It was so hard gathering information about this director in particular. There was barely anything online mentioned, but I believe from the same bits and pieces that I've been piecing together, this seems to be the same portfolio as the directors, which is also connected to this Instagram handle. I will link both down below, because again, I'm really hoping this is the same person, because goddamn, I really tried to find information on this director. But internet algo, comment section, do your thing. But this biography seems to be the same Rie Ito that made Betty, and apparently she studied graphic design at the University of Minnesota for 2 years and computer art at School of Visual Arts in New York for 4 years. There's just no way 1966 was the right date. But anyways, after the completion of her studies in 2005, Ito has been doing 3D modeling, animation, texture, 2D, 3D graphic design. But to talk about the actual short itself, it's just so unsettling, but there is this sort of charm at the same time, like the confidence that our like baby character exudes just dancing in the antique shop. Like there's this feeling of wholesomeness, but also just something isn't right. I mean, just clearly something isn't right. But I love this sort of conflicting feeling of being uncomfortable with what I'm watching, the movements, the atmosphere, the coloring, the saturation, but there's still this sort of charm at the same time. But a finalist at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science. Additionally, this short was apparently screened at the Seoul International Women's Film Festival. As it pertains to Lost Media, I was looking at other Lost Media entries in the subreddit, another one called Oh Dear, which I'll probably mention in another video. And that's the interesting part about r/Lost Media. Like, you can be in the comments section for one thing, and then the comments are talking about something else, and then you just go down another rabbit hole. But this thread from 4 years ago mentioned this short, stating the following: I looked at what was on the rest of the broadcast that this recording would have been on, 6th screening of 2005 festival. There's only one other short that seemed to have fallen through the cracks since Oh Dear and Betty, a CG short by Rie Ito, are the only shorts that I don't think made it to YouTube. But the OP then gets a comment with a link to this video, simply stating, Betty. This video then got re-uploaded to YouTube with a whopping 847 views. So now that the footage has been found, I guess technically it would be considered obscure media, but for decades it was considered lost media that was now found. But the few comments on this re-upload are basically thanking the uploader for re-uploading this short for all of us to see. I will also link this video down below in case you want to analyze this video further. But man, the early 2000s and 90s was just prime for such weird CGI animation. And this media being brought back from obscurity is what I think is so truly fascinating about r/Lost Media, and just Lost Media in general. I think it's important to show a spotlight on pieces of work like this, but also thank God I did not see this specific short as a kid, because it certainly would have fucked me up. But yeah, tell me what you think about this short in the comments down below. How did it make you feel? In this last entry, we're going to be sticking with Nickelodeon still, and this Lost Media I hope actually never sees the light of day. Let's talk about a show called Double Dare. It was a show that ran in the late 80s, but one of the threads I read on the subreddit mentioned this show, which then led me to go further down the rabbit hole. I heard rumors of things on this show like people breaking bones on set, workers getting sick, so let's really dive into accounts from people who were actually on set working, instead of some of these speculations from other onlookers on the subreddit. To clarify first though, Double Dare was a show that basically consisted of an obstacle or physical challenge game style kind of show. So normally injuries would probably not be such an anomaly given the style of the show. And you know, this was the 80s, so laws banning people from like jumping through fire rings out of a cannon weren't made yet. But according to the show's announcer, John Harvey, he was quoted saying that the set smelled like death. The set smelled like death. Now, I don't know if we're supposed to take this as a metaphor or if he was serious, but I can only imagine being on a 80s style game show, a Nickelodeon game show, and there's just Nickelodeon goo everywhere, lights beaming down in a hot room, and everything is slippery and gross and smelly. So I can kind of see a scenario where this is supposed to be taken literally, but my point is this is not a good sign so far if your host/announcer is saying stuff like this about your show. But apparently some of the speculations I was seeing in this subreddit was actually not hyperbolic. Yes, it's actually as bad as the speculation sounds. So some of these workers that were working on set, according to some testimonies, there was an admission of 2 people getting hurt on set in particular. In one of the instances where someone got hurt, one of the children contestants was apparently running through the course. He slipped obviously because there was, again, Nickelodeon goo everywhere like I said, or whatever props the show used. But what makes this so graphic is the testimony from this worker states that the contestant's bones, quote unquote, went right through his arm after he slipped. And the immediate reaction from that person was that they basically threw up from seeing that. I'm literally on the verge of throwing up after reading that. But how could this incident occur? This is where I start to kind of like start putting some blame on the parents. I mean, according to the showrunners, every contestant had to fill out a waiver because, I mean, obviously, right? But what I think the show didn't account for is the contestants, along with their parents and guardians, lying about the conditions of said children or, you know, their child on these waivers. Because, I mean, why would you? But this same contestant apparently had a glass bone condition. You know, when I typed that into Google, it looks like to be a condition akin to osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone disease or glass bone disease. I'm sorry though, I don't have kids, but if you're a parent watching this and your child had glass fucking bone disease, I would think the last thing you would do is sign them up for an obstacle course that would then be filmed in a public studio. Like, that's actually insane, and I think that that's probably the scariest part of this incident, is how neglectful the parents were in allowing this kind of. But leave your thoughts down below on this incident because I would love to hear what you think of the parents in this situation. Maybe I'm missing something that I didn't see, but you would think after a moment like that, everyone would just be like, all right, pack it up. It's over. Let's just pack this shit up. But now it's time to address this second rumor of someone getting hurt. And when we dive into the details even more, it's pretty gruesome as well. This next incident involves another child who was climbing a ladder inside what's called a sewer chute. He apparently fell backwards doing so and landed on his neck. According to a testimony, it appeared he snapped his neck. I thought he was dead. Apparently this same person is stated to say, if you see me on the course, all I say over and over again is, are you okay? Are you okay? Now, I don't mean to go after 80s parents here, but I just find it very strange that this really, really bad injury happened to your child and could possibly have medical complications later in life. And you just get a now outdated TV in 2026 that would probably have been thrown out in 2001. I just don't understand some of the logic and moves here by some of the parents. But ultimately, this happened on the Nickelodeon show on the set. So there will always be this like eerie mystique around this Double Dare show, which apparently got a reboot in 2018. How? Literally call it anything else. How can you make a reboot of this show given the history and rumors and speculation? I just don't understand. From the studios of Nickelodeon to the parents of these children, there's just this like eerie aura around this show as a whole. And the fact that it was seen by a live audience and filmed. As I stated at the start of this entry, I do hope this never sees the light of day, because going off some of the workers' reactions and hearing the descriptions of what happened from first-person accounts, I just think it's safe to say that some things are just not meant to see the light of day. But whether you agree or not with the statement, the point still remains. Lost media brings out so much emotion in a bystander such as like myself. Seeing the bizarre origins of some of these iconic photos unpacked, where it came from, makes me feel like an investigator who gets closure on a mystery. Or seeing a lost media piece unearthed, and I'm left with this bizarre piece of now obscure media that was once lost, but due to the persistence of this online community, it becomes a conversation again online. It becomes preserved for the general public again. Or whether that be understanding why maybe something will always be lost forever, and coming to terms with that. There's a variety of emotions here, and depending what rabbit hole you go down, you get swung one way, or you get swung in a very melancholy rabbit hole the other way. And I really like that. I do hope to do more videos on new entries that spring up. These were just some of the entries that really popped out to me that I personally didn't know. But I really do enjoy the variety in these different entries that I was going through. And I hope you did too. But let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you have a lost media rabbit hole you would like to hear discussed in another video? I'd like to hear some of your thoughts or rumors and things that you heard. And definitely leave a like on this video. It helps the channel grow. And it shows me that you really fuck with my content and my vibe, because I'm certainly not getting it from YouTube moderation the way that they do me dirty by demonetizing a lot of my videos. So it would really put a smile on my face if you would show support. And to address some of those tropes that some of the community members online were mentioning, like, I totally get what they're saying. I've definitely seen other videos online about like internet rabbit holes or like other lost media things where they just sound like a bot and they do all the classic horror tropes. But you know what? Sometimes I kind of do enjoy that. I think a person who does it really well is like people like Blame It On Jorge, Nick Crowley. But to my left, you can check out some of my other videos. I'm your internet bro, Raph. And until the next video, I am out ski.